Welcome to the next episode of L'Exclusive, the podcast produced and hosted by PaperStreet Website Design and Marketing. As always, I'm the host, Nancy, the Client Relations Manager here at PaperStreet. And today I'm joined by Alex, our VP and Internet Marketing Director, as
Hello.
well as David, our SEO Technical Manager. Thanks to you both for joining us today. Today, what we decided to do was take a step back and try to simplify how we've been presenting SEO to you guys on our podcast. So what we're doing today is we're going to have a little bit of an SEO definition session. Now, this is not going to be super basic. This is terms for people who have already got a basic understanding of SEO, and we're going to take it a little step further to clarify some of the things that may be a little more complex. So not only will we be providing the definitions for these terms, but we'll also be explaining what to keep in mind for these things. So if it's a problem, how you can fix it. If it's a technical element, how you can go ahead and implement it on your site and things like that. All right, you'll see that as we go. And don't forget, you can either watch the video for this, it'll be on YouTube, or you can listen to it on Spotify or any of your other podcast listening networks. All right, Alex and David, let's get started. One of the things that comes up the most is our clients will ask us, why don't I show up on Google? And a fundamental question is going to be, are you indexing? Is Google indexing your site? David, can you kick this off and tell us what that's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, indexing is it's just a fundamental element of SEO. Indexing, in a nutshell, means that Google was able to discover your URL, discover your content, think it's quality written, think it's unique, it's helpful for visitors, and then that is actually pretty much like downloaded into their system that allows that result to be shown in Google's actual search results. So. For example, you have a car accident page that you just developed. You're looking to, target, people in your area. And if that page is not actually indexed in Google, there is no chance of getting users to actually find that page when they're searching on Google and sending traffic to your website. So really, if your page isn't indexed, you have no chance of appearing in Google, of getting any traffic to that web page. There are a few methods of trying to fix this issue. First, obviously, is the quality of your content. It needs to be written very well for visitors. It needs to be unique. There can't be any plagiarized content on there. And then obviously Google needs to be able to find that URL on your site. So internal linking is a very important part of the indexing process. So Google uses links actually to find, discover new content on your site. So if there's no actual link on your website to this page that you're wanting to be indexed, Google's unable to, use its crawlers to actually find that page and, judge it to see if it's, worthwhile to be added to the index. So making sure, so that's really one of the biggest factors as well, is just the crawlability, the findability of those pages. And then also using what's called Google Search Console and having an XML sitemap, which is really a list of all the most important pages on your site, and submitting that directly to Google saying, hey, these are all the pages that I want you to index. These have when they were last updated. And that's really just kind of basically like having a conversation with Google. These are all the pages on my site. I would like you to, be informed about them, crawl them, and then hopefully index them as well. Another item you can do within Google Search Console is they have a tool called the inspect URL. So you can inspect this URL that is not indexed, and it can call attention to any issues there might be on the page. And then also you can actually do a submission. So you can say, hey, Google, I would like you to actually crawl this URL that you haven't discovered yet. It's not guaranteed that they will index afterwards, but it does bring, further attention to that page that, isn't listed on Google at the moment. So yeah, in a nutshell, without being indexed on Google, you really, you can't compete as far as, in the SEO game. So definitely one of the most important factors.
Yeah, that's basically step one for anything when a client comes to us to say, we're not on Google, we're not ranking highly. It's just first make sure your pages are even indexed. So thanks for that explanation there, David, because that is something we get asked a lot. Number two, what we're going to talk about is optimization. Now, this is actually really interesting because a lot of clients will come to me to say, oh, yeah, we had SEO optimization in the past, or we had an agency who's doing work for us and things like that. And the most simplistic thing to do is I will quickly pull up that website and say, well, let me take a look at your content because optimization is one of the fundamental aspects of Google. Is your content written in a specific way that targets to tells Google what it is you're talking about? It's not just Google, it's any search engine. So your content needs to be optimized. Now, there is also other things such as image optimization and things like that, and just kind of like your overall site structure. And that plays into your optimization. But for this purposes, that's more of a developmental level, and many of our listeners may not be familiar with that. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about the optimization that clients can see themselves. So if you're working with an agency, you can see, hey, have they done anything to optimize my content? Number one. Number two, you can take a quick look at your content to see, hey, does my content look like it the neat way it needs to be for SEO? And it's just number three, are there any quick steps that I can do to quickly see if my content is optimized? So what I'll do with this is I'm going to share my screen. So those of you that are listening via Spotify or another podcast listening service, you can check this out on YouTube. But otherwise, hopefully you could just follow along with us as I present this information. So with this, I'm going to share my screen for an SEO client with PaperStreet. And what we tell you to do is we always tell our clients that you have to have a keyword phrase. What is it that you're actually looking to rank for? So for this particular site, you can see very clearly what this website is looking to rank for. Easton Slip and Fall Lawyer. They're the law firm targeting slip and fall claims in Easton, Pennsylvania. Very easy to see. So what this site has is this has a heading. Okay, this is your H1 heading right here. It's your biggest heading, and you can see it's coded as your H1 heading. Now, for those of you who have any sort of familiarity, you can make sure that this is how you optimize your content. So you can go in and make a H1 appear on that page. And like I said, H1 is going to be either the exact keyword phrase or something that's connected to the keyword phrase that has enough of it to show up for relevance searching. So we have the keyword phrase up here. Then another thing you want to do is it's very important to introduce your keyword phrase again in the body of the content pretty close to the top. So as you can see on this page, or for those of you listening, as I said, we're targeting Easton Slip and Fall Lawyer. And in this very introductory paragraph, we have Easton Slip and Fall Lawyer as the mentioned right away. All right, so that's how it's there right away. And then I always tell clients you're going to need other headings as well. So you're going to have several H2 headings. So you have the H1 heading, the big one, usually at the top. And then you're going to have something called H2 headings spread throughout the content as well. Now, you don't want all of your keyword phrase, like every H2 heading to have your keyword phrase, because that's something called keyword stuffing, and that can over optimization can hurt your site and your rankings as well. So you have to be careful to have enough uses of the phrase that it will show up, but just not too many that it becomes accused of keyword stuffing. And what you'll do with those other phrases is they still have to be like helpful to Google for both showing what the content is about. So for example, may not be constantly saying slip and fall accident, slip and fall accident, slip and fall accident, but you may have something like store owner liability or dangerous conditions in stores, things that will signal to Google, oh, they're explaining when somebody could potentially slip and fall in a retail setting. So again, this is very basic level of optimization. Obviously, our SEO team goes further and does other content optimization techniques. But the main thing for everybody to take a idea from is just to look at your content, see if there's a discernible keyword phrase. Are there obvious headings that use that keyword phrase? And is it balanced enough throughout the site that there's not too much in there? And we'll talk a little bit more about optimization and content that connects to this, but that's kind of just the brief overview of what you'll need to see to make sure my content is optimized on a site, and that'll help portray if your site will rank on Google and be optimized and rank in Google as well. All right, Alex, another one that our clients don't seem to understand too much is domain authority. Could you help break that down for us?
Sure. Yeah, the domain authority of a site is essentially the power, the overall strength of this website itself. So every single website, every website online has some sort of domain authority unless it is a brand new site. Meaning, the URL, I should even say, is actually brand new. The domain name is brand new. So if it was just purchased, it has no site that it's linking to, that domain authority is zero. And it goes from 0 to 100. And the only time we've ever seen anything up to 100 is, generally speaking, other search engines. So if one was to look up Yahoo or something like that, that does have a 100 domain authority score. But what ultimately domain authority does, and what that strength provides, is it's a data number. It's a representation of what that overall power assessment is, associated with the site. And so the more power that you have, the more higher domain authority that you have, the more that then helps with what your rankings are. So, and it actually can even help with things like how quickly a website gets ranked, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all this inherent value behind what that score means. One of the questions that we get a lot, though, is how do you build up domain authority? What is one of the best ways to do that? And the best way, I always tell all of our clients, is not just the establishment of backlinks. In other words, getting one link from another website to lead back to yours, like directory links or something similar to that. But more importantly, diversifying where those backlinks are pointing within your site. So you might have a homepage that all the links are pointing to, and that's probably not going to really help the overall strength level of what your domain authority is. It'll help to a degree, but if you can link to practice area pages and then internal practice area pages, and then have those links will link to those respective subpages, that is actually what helps build domain authority the most. Reason being, there is a methodology behind this with Google, which is, and all search engines, I should say. You're showing the diversification. You're showing I'm not just a one-trick pony. I just don't have one main homepage. I have this variety of homepages, and not only do I have it, but I have links that are pointing to it that are giving it that credibility. Last but not least, very quickly, especially for those that are maybe just listening and not necessarily watching, and I can share my screen, but there is a large variety of options out there for looking on how to check your overall authority. There are websites like SEMrush, semrush.com. As you'll see, there's a website authority checker. There's also moz.com, moz.com. They also have a free domain authority checker, and then Ahrefs, Ahrefs, depending on who you ask and how to say it. And they also have a website authority checker as well. So there's a huge variety out there just to see what your score is like, but also, measuring yourselves up against the competition.
That, Alex. And then another thing that we check when clients come over to us with SEO, or saying, "Oh, we're not ranking. What's the problem?" Or they say, "I'm not sure if I had a good agency that's done this before." One of the things is we make sure that there's either no broken links, no errors with links, and things like that. It's very common for you to make changes to your website. That's okay. That's not always a bad thing. It's just when you make changes to your website, you either take things off and things like that, is that it's handled properly. So the most important thing that we always tell clients is, if you think you can do this, do it well. But what it is it's called a 301 redirect. And David, could you break that down for us?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's pretty much a pretty technical term, but a 301 redirect basically means when a URL may no longer exist, you want to, when a 301 redirect is implemented, it will actually forward the visitor to a new URL. So this comes into place a lot of times when a site is getting a redesign, and if the URL structure is changing. So for example, abc.com, backslash, just one of their service pages. Let's say it ended in a .html extension, which some older websites tend to do. and let's say the website is moving into a newer platform that no longer, utilizes that URL structure. Let's say everything is changing. What we want to do is ensure 301 redirects are set up so that signals to search engines that, hey, this content no longer exists at this URL, but I want you to follow the path that I'm designating to the new URL. So what it does is, a nutshell, is it forwards the signals from the old page to the new page so that you're not starting from scratch. So let's say you had a car accident page that's been up on Google for 10 years, has received lots of traffic, has a high page authority, which is something else that individual pages can, have authority as well on how powerful they are. And if you were to just flat out delete that page and not redirect it, you would essentially be starting from scratch. But having a 301 redirect basically, yeah, tells those search engines that this page no longer exists, but I want you to now forward all of the previous signals from that page to the new URL. And so that's also helpful for websites, like third-party websites that may be linking to your old URL. If you didn't set up a 301 redirect and a visitor happened to click on that URL, it's going to send them to a not found, a 404 error page. And the visitor is going to think, oh, great, like this content doesn't exist, and potentially leave your site. But with the 301 redirect in place, that ensures that the visitor clicking on that old link from a third-party website gets forwarded to the existing content that is live on the site. So this is, like, along with indexing, a very, super fundamental action that definitely needs to take place for any website changing URLs. So hopefully that explains, yeah.
Great. Thanks, David. All right, Alex, another thing that we get asked about is relevance. Okay. And we have to explain this to our clients a lot, especially when they're either targeting too many keyword phrases, or they're targeting millions of practice areas, or they just don't have enough content on the site. What is relevance, and what do people need to keep in mind about when they're making sure their page is relevant for SEO purposes?
Matching up with the content that directly matches the keywords of what you're trying to rank for. It's pretty much that simple. So if you are targeting ABC keyword, have ABC content. Pretty much that simple. So even though it sounds that simplistic, and I think the dictionary definition of what relevancy is just a way that search engines measure up how closely connected your content is on a web page with and how that's aligned to match the context of a search query. So again, that matches, again, what I was just mentioning as far as if you have a given keyword, have the content about that given keyword. Sounds super basic, sounds very obvious or evident, but one would be surprised how often we review a website that doesn't say that exact keyword. So for example, let's say it's a personal injury client. They might have a ton of content pertaining to car accidents, motorcycle accidents, truck accidents. But if personal injury and that actual phrase is a big phrase that they're going after, I can't tell you the number of times that we've reviewed personal injury websites that don't say personal injury. So, that's a perfect case in point example. They might be relevant for things like, again, those car accidents, truck accidents, motorcycle accidents, the subsets, but they actually don't have the content necessary, the relevant content pertaining to the actual given main keyword that they're targeting. So it's really just that one-to-one matchup and making sure that you have that. Now, that's, again, a very simplistic, basic terminology of how to do it. But it all complies with everything that's been discussed, making sure that, there's the relevant keywords that are embedded within there, meaning the optimization that you, Nancy, went over, and making sure that, you have large amounts of valued content that is better than those of your competition. So again, I mean, this is the basic kind of tip of the iceberg on what that's about. But the way that you prove that relevancy is basically proving that you are that industry leader over your competition.
Thanks, Alex.
No problem.
All right. Now, like I said, this program is designed to give you some of the intro to what you need to know about SEO. If you're not too familiar with it, you have a general idea. So this next one that I'm going to talk about is something called your click-through rate. And this is something that's kind of like a deeper analysis of your SEO. It's not too deep that, like I said, you're not going to understand what we're saying, but what you need to know about your click-through rate is a lot of firms will say, oh, I ranked, but I'm not getting any calls. So what your click-through rate actually is yes, you may be number one on Google, you may be number two on Google, but do people actually click on the link to get to your site? So are they actually clicking on a link? Again, this is an oversimplified definition, and this is just one option of a click-through rate because it also could apply to Google Ads and things like that. But this, for just our listener purposes, is your SEO intro to click-through rate. So just showing up is your impression, just appearing is an impression. How many people saw your listing on Google? But then the click-through rate is more important because yes, your rankings matter, but are people seeing what they need to see when you appear on a search? So for example, let's say somebody types in family law firm. Okay, so they're searching for a family lawyer. But what they see, only because you haven't made sure that your click-through rate, like we're connected to click-through rate is relevant, they'll see something like alimony lawyer because that is what Google's ranking or showing for what you're trying to target with your page. They may say, oh, that's alimony. I don't need alimony. I'm worried about custody. So if your description isn't proper, what they're showing up on Google isn't there, then they may click elsewhere. The same thing is true of a lot of firms that don't even have anything showing on the Google page, and they'll just shove their name. So someone will search for family lawyer, and all that they'll see is your firm name and where you're located or something like that. That in itself is still may not be persuasive enough. And what I'm referring to is actually called your title tag and your meta description. So title tag and meta descriptions are fundamental for SEO simply because that is what Google is looking at when they're ranking, particularly the title tag. Meta descriptions, iffy. They say they're not looking at it, but still good to have. So what happens is when you create a title tag on your meta description, it's very easy to see in WordPress, but those are what's going to display when a person is actually searching for those terms. So I'll show my screen again to those of you that are listening. You can check us out on YouTube. But what we have here is very simply someone in Wyoming was looking for a pharmacy malpractice lawyer. Now, this is the type of keyword phrases that we see the most popular. A lot of times people will type things like pharmacy malpractice lawyer near me and things like that. But we tend to use this as this sort of formula for our keywords. This is most common. That being said, you may appear with other terms that appear, but that said, let's leave it as Farmington, Wyoming pharmacy malpractice lawyer. As you can see, our PaperStreet client right here is number one for SEO organic traffic, okay? So this is what appears if somebody types in Wyoming pharmacy lawyer and they search for it on Google. We are the number one spot for this in the search engine optimization side of things. This is an ad, this is not. What you can see here is the firm clearly described themselves. We are pharmacy malpractice lawyers serving Wyoming and Montana. Great. Says what they're looking for, says where they're serving. That's number one. Number two, do not suffer from a pharmacy's medical malpractice mistake. Contact a Wyoming pharmacy malpractice attorney from Ragain and Clark as soon as possible. So once again, we're reiterating what kind of law this is, where they're located, and who is this law firm that's actually going to be the ones that handle it. So like I said, the title tag is this part up top that shows the keyword phrase, pharmacy malpractice lawyers, shows where they're located. And then we have this meta description, this part right here, that describes why someone should click on this link. We're saying we're a pharmacy malpractice lawyer. We're saying what firm we're from. Call us right away. Those are the things that need to appear when someone is conducting a search for you and how you appear on Google. Now, there's different tactics. You could do 5-star reviews. You could say open 24/7, things like that. But however style you chose to portray, just make sure that it's relevant, that it's someone who's looking for this term would see it and say, yes, that's why I need to call these people, and that it's persuasive enough to say, oh, yeah, okay, they understand this. They know what we're doing. So when you have a stronger title tag and meta description, not only will your ranking help, but the fact that somebody can look at it and say, oh, yeah, okay, this is what I need to do, and click on it. So that is your click-through rate. Did they see what you're described when they searched for you? And did they actually click on it to view your site? All right. Now, Alex, this is often the bane of our SEO team's existence, but let's talk about what a Google algorithm update is. Now, clients may not actually think they need to know this, but they sure know it when it's impacting them. So let's talk about it.
Sure. So, a Google algorithm update is just, a change made by Google with how their bots evaluate a site. So, and what that position is within the search engine. So, the wonderful thing though nowadays, and I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen again for those that are watching this presentation. But if one does their own, ironically, Google search, and you actually look up Google algorithm update, you will find the link that I'm sharing on my screen now, which is directly from the lion's den, so to speak. This is actually directly from Google. Um, and this actually is what the search status dashboard presentation shows on how frequently or when the updates are actually occurring. So all the incidents that are occurring that are pertaining to this algorithm update. So again, we have several that have already happened thus far this year. The wonderful thing about these is not only does it show the date that it is actually occurring on, but it also actually shows the duration of time. So if again somebody actually feels that essentially they can kind of see that this is actually affecting them and affecting how their site is ranking. You can see if there's an algorithm update that is still kind of coming into play. The other portion that I really like about this as well, because again, not only is it directly from Google, so we know specifically how long and what time this affected, but if you click onto each one, it then specifically talks about what that update is. So, for example, this one that I'm clicking on here was an August core update. When we click on that core update, it'll actually show you and discuss what those parameters are and the things that we need to pay attention to in order to comply with that update. So yeah, it's just essentially being cognizant of it and then being aware when there are times that this may be affecting your rankings and your site.
All right. And like I said, it's a good thing because sometimes people who are ranking number 1 or number 2 may all of a sudden see them drop and then come back. A lot of times Google algorithm had taken place. So that's a good thing to keep in mind that sometimes there may be a change if your rankings seem unusual and to look into that.
One of the analogies that I use, and I use analogies all the time, is that I always say, think of every website as, let's call them, balls that are floating on top of a water or in a pool or something like that. And what the algorithm does is essentially pushes everyone down. If you're doing what you should be doing and you're in compliance, then it won't necessarily even affect you. And if anything, not only will you bounce back up, you might kind of bounce out of the water. You might do even better. But if you're doing the things that are negatively affecting your rankings, then essentially, let's say you're getting toxic links or writing that content that's not necessarily valued. When you get pushed down, you're going to stay down. So the algorithm update is really to try to help filter, to prune, if you will, the good websites over those that should not be ranking as high as maybe what they are.
Thanks, Alex. All right. Another thing is anybody who's ever listened to this podcast has probably heard me or our existing clients will tell you that I nag about blogs a lot. Okay. And blogs are fundamental for SEO. And I could spend an entire day talking about blogging for your firm and things like that. But one of the things with blogging is so important is because an important term that people don't think about or aspect of SEO that people don't think about as often is your long tail keyword search. Okay. So I was just harping when I was showing you click-through rate for the Wyoming pharmacy malpractice lawyer. Okay. That is your standard keyword phrase. So that's not a long tail or anything like that. That's a regular keyword phrase. A long tail keyword phrase is more akin to things like frequently asked questions or actual phrases that may not be necessarily the magic keyword on Google, the one that gets the most keyword volume or anything like that, but they are still very important because these are things that people are typing when they're in Google to look something up. So, something they want more information about, or things like that. So, what's important to realize is that yes, you can rank very well for a certain phrase, but if you don't optimize for long tail keyword searches, you may be missing a lot of clients this way. And the best way to address these keyword long tail keyword phrases is to have a blog. So once again, I'll share my screen. But like I said, those of you who are just listening, you don't really necessarily even need to see this aspect, but it's good to know. Okay, this is a blog post for an SEO client that is exactly pure and simple what needs to be known about a long tail keyword phrase. The title for this blog is What You Need to Know Before Applying for National Security Clearance in the Private Sector. So this is something that somebody may just be Googling. They don't even know they need a lawyer at this point, or they're just looking to get some background information before they apply for a job or something like that. So it's mapped out, need to know before applying for national security clearance. So what you want to do is, this is a long tail phrase because it's something that somebody's typing into Google as a frequently asked question or just something connected to their actual area of law. And we create this content so that somebody who's looking for this will find your firm right away. And if you are able to explain on this site what that person needs to know, they may realize, oh, wait, I do need a lawyer's assistance for this. Let me contact this guy because he clearly knows what he's talking about. So not only do you appear in search, you get somebody to read the article. They may not have known they needed a lawyer, and now you can hire them. They'll hire you. So, like I said, it's a missed opportunity if you're not creating this kind of content or targeting these phrases, because, like I said, you can stand out above the pack because you have somebody in the research stage, but you've convinced them to hire you then, even before they start looking for a lawyer. So these long-term keyword phrases shouldn't be ignored, and the blog is really one of the best places that you can have these keyword questions answered. All right, next
Um,
one is a huge.
Nancy, sorry to chime in really quickly. I want to add something. I want to contribute something to that, which I tell all of our clients, and I just think it's a huge missed opportunity pertaining exactly to what you just said for long tail keyword phrases. There is a portion of Google that is called People Also Ask. And when one does a search for any sort of keyword, the people also ask portion, segment, metric uh, typically comes up. There are times where it doesn't, but I'll go ahead and again share my screen very quickly. And again, I think this is super important because if somebody did a given keyword phrase like Florida personal injury lawyer, as they scroll down, there are going to be these questions that are here. What a lot of people don't also know is that when you click on that and then you close it, it'll actually add even more, and it keeps adding and keeps adding. So you would cherry pick what essentially you want to go after and what you want to comply with. But again, from a long tail search and a long tail keyword search, what better way to write a blog, to your point, and what better way to match up with terminology of like personal injury lawyers and Florida in this given keyword phrase than to comply with the people also ask questions. This is an example of, again, Google spoon feeding you and saying, other people are searching for this and this given phrase. Make sure you have that relevant content. Just a good tip.
Thanks for that, Alex. All
Mhm.
right, the next one we're going to talk about is something that's a little different. It's okay, it still pertains very much to SEO, as we'll clarify, but it's something that we need to clarify because this comes up a lot when we talk to clients with significantly older websites, okay? And what a lot of these firms, when they have their older websites, they're not convinced to create a new website because they'll say, oh, it still works, it still looks okay, things like that. So you're working with older technology. But we have to realize is there's something called mobile responsiveness that not only does it mean how well your site is going to appear on a cell phone or a tablet and things like that, but it also connects to your SEO. David, could you break this down a little bit for our audience?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, years ago, most people would just use their desktop computers to, browse websites. And there wasn't really a need for mobile optimized sites. There wasn't as many, tablets didn't exist. People weren't using their phones as often to search, but times have completely changed. So really what a mobile responsive website is a website that looks great on any device. It adapts to the screen size, whether you're on a desktop, whether you're on a tablet or a mobile phone. So it's going to realign elements of the site. Actually, let me go ahead and just share I'm going to share my screen and show you guys live. So using actually the Chrome browser, we can see really how a website adapts to different devices. So I have this actually set up right now to be on responsive mode. We're actually looking at our PaperStreet portfolio. So this is what you would be seeing on a desktop computer. But as you can see, I can sort of collapse the screen. And as the screen size gets smaller, we have different rules set up on the back end to where certain elements of the page will either collapse or disappear. So for example, once we get to this smaller screen view, we're showing now a hamburger menu to get to other portions of the site instead of kind of this full-fledged menu. So really, and as you can see, we've got 2-column display for desktop for larger screens, but as we get into smaller screens, we're gonna go ahead and collapse this into a 1-column display. So really, I mean, overall, we just want our websites to be able to adapt to the device that the user is using to give them the best possible experience. Because if your website appeared like this on a mobile phone, everything is going to be extremely small, extremely hard to use. So having mobile responsive websites really takes care of that issue. And then there's also tools online to kind of test what to make sure your site kind of passes a mobile friendly test. And it also appears, it will show kind of like a screenshot of, how it looks on a mobile device. And so these are some of the areas, some of the tests that it goes through. The viewport is configured correctly. That basically means the website is set up to adapt to a mobile phone. There's code on the site that sort of instructs that to happen. Zoom control is not restricted, so it allows the visitor to zoom in on certain portions of the website if they would like. The page content fits within the device width, meaning it doesn't go beyond, the headlines and content don't go off the screen. So everything is, basically tailored to what the visitor is seeing. And then also the text on the page is readable, so the fonts aren't way too small. A lot of times if you're taking a desktop site and looking at it strictly on mobile, the fonts are going to be extremely small. So when we have a mobile adaptive site, the fonts change accordingly so that they are legible. And then also links and tap targets are sufficiently large and kind of touch friendly. That just means that when you have buttons or links on the site, that there's like clear separation between the two, so that when a visitor is trying to tap on a certain button, they're not accidentally touching something else. So yeah, Google used to offer a mobile friendly test tool, but for some reason they decided to sunset it. But there are other platforms out there that do offer this type of tool as well. So yeah, definitely make sure your website is friendly.
And it's important to just mention that if somebody clicks on your site and they look at it and it's horrible on mobile, they're going to exit really quickly and they're not going to contact you. So not only is that bad for business, but the faster somebody gets into your site and exits really fast without doing anything, that also hurts your SEO as well. So for a million reasons, if your site is on the older side of things, take a look at your mobile performance and just see how it's going to help you in the long run. All right, and last but not least, a very short one. It's called an internal link. And when I was on the SEO team, the team used to tease me because I was always very big on, does this firm have internal links? What does it have? And things like that. And very simply, it's an easy term to understand, but an internal link is the link of your own in your own text of your website that connects to other portions of your website. Okay. And like I said, it seems really easy, and it is. It's something that's a very easy tool that you can add in WordPress yourself, that you can just highlight a text in the WordPress, add that little link button, and have it go to the actual page of your site. And let me share my screen to show you how you can actually do this and why it's important. So for example, we have this site for one of our clients, and they do this very well. This is their Tuscaloosa truck accident page, okay? So it's telling everything they need to know about truck accidents on this page. That being said, sometimes a person may not be fully aware of what content they need to be looking at connected to their accident and things like that, or they just want further information. Okay, so let's say somebody's looking at truck accident lawyer. They're saying, yeah, I was in a truck accident. I want to know if I could win. What do I need to know? And then you can see right here, there's an internal link to truck driver fatigue. And it takes you directly to yet another very helpful page of the site, which talks about truck accidents caused by truck driver negligence and fatigue. So this is extremely important because A, it increases your time on the client's time on your site, which obviously helps with SEO, but it also makes them more likely to probably hire you if they're looking and reading and understanding what you have to offer. But also, what's really important about these internal links is that Google actually uses them, the bots that we've talked about already, in terms of indexing your site and things like that. So, when a site's looking to index or reviewing your site for ranking purposes, having this internal linking helps you, the bot, see, oh, yeah, they're talking about truck accidents. And I see that they have this very vast network, what I call a spider's web of content connected to truck accidents. So all these internal links are signals to Google that you're an authority on this particular segment. So this little trick, this little teeny tiny trick of highlighting your own content and having it go to a more relevant page or an additionally relevant page of your site can improve your SEO and help people figure out what they need to know from your site so that they could read more about what it is that they're looking for. It's great to do this for your practice area content, but it's also really great to do it with your blog as well. So if you're reading something about a blog, so that way somebody found it, like let's say they were doing that long tail search engine, it's long tail keyword search, they could simply read the blog post, see, oh yeah, that is answering my question, and then click on the practice area page that you have, which may be more information that they need to know if they're saying, okay, well now I need to get to that step 2 of hiring them. So again, it's a very simple technique that probably take any of our listeners about 5 seconds to do, just to take a look, enter that page on WordPress or whatever tool you're using, hopefully WordPress, highlight it, connect it to another page of your site, and there you go. And just make sure that your network and content is all connected. It helps with your user experience and it helps with SEO. All right, well, believe it or not, that was 10 terms. So now you are 10 terms smarter when it comes to SEO, and hopefully that'll help you have a better understanding whether it's to implement these techniques on your own site, whether you're evaluating if your agency is helping you, or even if you're interviewing an agency and you need to know what to ask. This is some of the stuff to keep in the back of your mind when they're giving you an evaluation or anything like that. So thank you, Alex and David. I think we had a really helpful lesson for our clients. Hopefully this gave them some information and some food for thought. So thank you for joining me. And everybody tune in next time for the next episode of L'Exclusive hosted by PaperStreet. Thanks, everybody.